Climate Change Action Plan for Carbon Neutrality Program Development is work that happens across all departments and with senior management to create an approved plan that is funded. In our experience, only plans with a 2-year or less ROI are funded. So it's important to be smart about how quickly this gets put together and how efficiently. Let's talk about getting to carbon neutral. Carbon footprint reduction is prioritized by your most carbon-intensive energy use. We look at the low-hanging fruit first. Then we want to look at a way to switch to less carbon-intense fuels while selecting an energy efficiency target over the next 10 years. Determine the annual carbon footprint reduction your company can commit to by 2030. Collect the last 2 years of energy and water use data. This is your first step. Without data, you're just another person with an opinion. We need to make sure that we have data to back up everything that we are claiming with regard to our carbon neutrality plans. The good news is that all audits, carbon footprint estimation, energy efficiency planning, and water efficiency planning all use the same data sets. So once you collect it, you can use it for all of those things. Now, right about now, you're probably saying, wait, water? Yes, water. Little known fact, water has a high carbon intensity. Water has to be cleaned up before and after we use it, and municipal water districts are major energy users. The U.S. average is 2,300 kilowatt hours per million gallons. That's quite a high energy use. So your second step is to create the carbon neutrality database of actual, not averaged, energy and water bills. We need to know the actual usage, and they're required. This actual usage data is required for the third-party audit. So the database setup includes energy and water use plus 2 years of historic usage data, so we're talking about 3 years, and then monthly weather data, high, low, and average temperatures, plus 2 years of historic data as well. Then we report ongoing usage data into the database. Are your facilities reporting their utility, water, and fuel usage, or just the costs? We recommend that both cost and usage in units are tracked. You benchmark facilities on a square foot basis because this saves internal time and cost. It is much faster to track your carbon intensity on a monthly basis. That way you don't have to dig through everything and find it again. It just goes in the database. So benchmarking. We track trends related to weather, outages, maintenance, and other internal metrics, and report actual monthly usage in units that are purchased. That would be kilowatt hours, BTUs, liters, gallons, etc. So then we look at, we project our carbon neutrality based on what we think the energy, water, and fuel usage is going to be, using the past 2 years' monthly usage and comparing it to the current year's monthly usage. That gives us our annual carbon offsets purchase amount for our carbon neutrality. After carbon neutrality, the carbon neutrality database is completed and verified. We use the carbon footprint calculator to determine scope 1 and 2 emissions, and we use these results to develop an energy efficiency project plan. Your carbon neutrality database highlights carbon-intensive energy uses. This informs your energy efficiency targets. If you don't know where your biggest usages are, you can't put together an effective energy efficiency plan. So we have several carbon footprint calculator videos up, and you can review those. They will help you to go through the calculator that's on our website and determine the number of carbon offsets that you need so that you can develop an outline for your carbon neutrality plan, and then share this plan with all of the departments in your company so that everyone is on the same page.
Hi, this is Mike Fiorino, EVP of Net Zero Analysis. We have a couple calculators on our website that you can use to estimate your carbon footprint based on the data Celeste has outlined. There's an actual data calculator which uses energy information from utility bills and from actual vehicle usage. And the average data calculator is based on DOE statistics and requires less input. These aren't the calculators we use for ISO audits, but they'll give you a pretty close carbon footprint estimate. You can also use these calculators to formulate a carbon reduction plan. For example, by reducing actual water usage by 20%, you'll see what the impact of that conservation effort is on your carbon footprint. And the process can be used for electricity and other fuel usages. To view a tutorial for using either of these calculators, please visit our YouTube channel accessible through the website. And as you move through the calculators, if you'd like to offset your carbon footprint, please select the tab at the bottom and you'll be directed to the Entrex carbon market where you can start the process. We'd like to make these tools meaningful for everyone to use, so please leave suggestions and feedback. The next calculator version we're working on will have additional energy source inputs for actual and DOE sourced energy use, as well as travel by bus, train, ship, and plane.
It's important to measure your current carbon intensity first. Carbon intensity audit results are shared with all of the company departments, and these results inform the development of everything: the energy efficiency plan, the water efficiency plan, and equipment purchases, upgrades, replacements. So you get the fastest ROI on all your projects by pairing carbon intensity audits with energy and water efficiency programs and prioritizing the most carbon intensive energy sources, processes, and fuels for modification. There are several case studies here that are on our website. Feel free to go and read through those. These are companies that have had many of the same questions that you probably have right now, so feel free to read through those. Verification process. So the company's carbon neutrality plan starts out in a draft report status. Then the energy, water, and fuel use databases are set up. The estimated carbon footprint is calculated. And then the carbon neutrality plan and energy and water efficiency plans are approved and finalized. So those are the general 4 steps. Let's talk about ISO, or the International Organization for Standardization. This requires a third-party audit, which includes the detailed approval of your carbon neutrality plan, all databases for energy, water, and fuel uses, and this will include the actual bills, contracts, and related documents. Those will all go into the file. So the third-party auditor requirements. All auditors have ISO 14001, either 2015 or 2018 International Environmental Auditor licenses. They must be in good standing, and they must have completed a minimum of 5 other carbon neutrality project certifications. So the lead auditor is responsible for assigning, supervising, and reviewing the work of the auditors, and ensuring that the short and long-term goals of the project are met. Lead auditor reviews potential carbon offset project opportunities that may arise in various cap and trade markets, and project development costs weighed against the cost of purchasing carbon offsets in the cap and trade market. Sometimes companies can produce carbon offsets and use these internally before having to reach out and purchase carbon offsets on a market. They review substitution plans for replacement of high potential greenhouse gases. Substitutions, if not properly researched, can have other negative environmental impacts. This is important that the auditor be experienced in this arena. Again, more case studies to be found on our website at netzeroanalysis.com at the link. So let's go beyond carbon neutrality and talk about the net zero emissions plan. First, you have to have a climate change action plan for carbon neutrality that is approved by a third-party auditor. And then you look at your Scope 3 emissions, which is the carbon intensity of your direct vendors and your supply chain. So the Carbon Neutrality Plan is based on your Scope 1 and 2 emissions. The Net Zero Emissions Plan brings in the Scope 3 emissions, which is your supply chain and your vendors. Carbon neutrality of your direct vendors and supply chain is the goal of your Net Zero Emissions Plan. So it's one step further than the Carbon Neutrality Plan. Your purchasing department is a critical partner in the Net Zero Emissions Plan implementation. You want to inform your supply chain that a supplier carbon neutrality plan submission is required to do business with your company. You want to email updates on your climate change action plan to all of your direct vendors and supply chain, and post vendor and supply chain requirements on your company website so that everybody has the information they need to comply. Invite your direct vendors and supply chain to participate in your climate change action plan development, because the carbon neutrality of your direct vendors and supply chain is a collaborative effort. Ask your direct vendors and supply chain to designate their own carbon neutrality champions and participate in your cross-functional department meetings. Set due dates for your direct vendors and supply chain. Ask them to submit a working review copy of their carbon neutrality plan as they're developing it, and track supplier progress on your ISO 14001 environmental audit Scope 3 emissions plan. If a vendor or supplier needs help, this is the perfect time to offer assistance and refer them to net zero analysis. So the direct vendors and supply chain are going to submit ISO third-party verified copy of your annual carbon neutrality plan, the thing that you just finished. And this goes to your purchasing department, who will track and record it. The purchasing department submits all of the vendors' ISO third-party verified carbon neutrality plans to your climate change action plan department, so it all gets compiled. And once the third-party audit is done on all of that, the annual net zero emissions report will be completed for the calendar year and submitted to you, the client, state and local authorities as necessary, and the Center for Climate and Energy Solutions, so that it is published and everyone can see that you are being proactive in your climate change action. For further questions, please contact our CEO, George Sullivan, and have a great day.
Thanks for watching. Please like our video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Climate Action Plan, Carbon Neutrality. Net Zero Analysis is carbon neutral and pledges to be net zero emissions by 2030.